We begin tonight with continuing coverage of the Lori-Vallow murder trial at the Ada County Courthouse. Today was the first day of jury selection and the trial as a whole. You're looking at new video shot by our news partners, East Idaho News, showing Vallow leaving the Ada County Courthouse this evening.
Vallow is charged, or is the Rexburg mom, I should say, charged with murder, conspiracy, and grand theft related to the deaths of her two kids, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, and her husband's late wife, Tammy Daybell. Our team was inside the courthouse all day. I
sat in for a few hours while attorneys questioned potential jurors, trying to weed out people who weren't the right fit. Here are the biggest takeaways. The defense and prosecution are setting out to find a fair and impartial jury. On Monday, jurors were called into the courtroom in 3 panels of about 15 and questioned starting around 9 a.m. Questioning didn't end until after 6 p.m. Each group was asked the same questions, like can they commit to being a juror for 8 weeks? Many people were excused, saying they couldn't commit because of work, life, or medical obligations. Because no cameras or audio recording are allowed in the courtroom, a sketch artist is documenting each day of trial. Jury selection is fully closed to the public to protect jurors, so we have to watch from the overflow room, where we can see the judge, prosecutors, Vallow, and her attorneys on a projector screen. The streaming was stopped for parts of questioning Monday when individual jurors were asked what they knew from the media and more personal information. 1,800 people were called for jury duty last week, a massive pool. They were given questionnaires, and then that pool was dwindled down. Those people were then called for jury selection this week. A spokesperson for the prosecution told us they have to get 42 potential jurors. By the end of Monday, they already had 17 potential jurors. At 42, I'm told attorneys' questions will be more targeted. From there, they'll choose 18 final jurors, with 6 of them serving as alternates.
6 is a lot of alternates, but in a case like this, you know, if somebody sees the wrong newscast or hears the wrong radio station on their way to jury service, then, you know, it can present a real problem. And I think the last thing the judge wants to do is to have to sequester the jury.
Ada County Administrative Judge Stephen Hippler says they also need such a big jury because they're asking people to give up so much of their lives. Pre-trial media publicity was a common theme in attorneys' line of questioning, asking if it would impact jurors' ability to be objective and consider all elements. Potential jurors were asked if they've heard of Lori Vallow. Interestingly, a handful of people said no. Former Ada County Chief Deputy Prosecutor Gene Fisher thinks it could be difficult to find a fair and impartial jury because of all the coverage that's already out there. Fisher says this is one of the most complex cases we've ever had in Idaho, as far as the age of the children, how the kids were found, the mental health component, and the religious fanaticism. Prosecutors asked if jurors would be able to handle emotional evidence, like autopsy pictures. Because 2 of the victims are kids, attorneys asked if that would impact their ability to be fair.
Ada County certainly provides a much larger jury pool, and that's why they're here, so that's great. I think that picking a jury requires a certain amount of sophistication, mixed with intuition, and in the end, your gut. That's really what happens. And there's sophistication in the beginning of this by being organized, knowing what your themes are, looking for the juror that's going to be fair and impartial, and watching and cueing for not only what they're answering to, but body language and how they're participating on the other side, what they're answering for the defense. What does their body language look like that? I mean, I can only imagine that it's going to be it could be a very difficult case for many of them. You know, you have 2 children and their mom on trial, 2 children who have been murdered. Their mother is, you know, on trial for it. That in and of itself is very difficult to understand. But the nature in which these children died and which they are going to learn about is going to be very difficult for them to understand as well. There's a lot of questions about where those children were, what happened to them, and then the manner in which they were found. And they're going to learn all about that. And so the mental health component is very real.
In voir dire Monday, prosecutors asked many questions about whether or not jurors would be able to convict someone based on circumstantial evidence, and if they could believe an expert who knows someone was killed but can't say exactly how they died. Vallow's husband, Chad Daybell, is also charged in this case, but a judge recently ruled their trials would be separated, although his also being held at Ada County in the future at a date to be determined.
Which is why Daybell's attorney, John Pryor, was also in the overflow room today with you guys watching this jury selection.
Yes, yeah, he was paying close